Rain poured in unbroken sheets, turning the narrow road into a river of black glass. Elias Thorne trudged onward, boots heavy with mud, his lantern swaying like a heartbeat of light against the vast dark. The fog moved strangely here, thick, coiling, alive. He followed a map inked with age, drawn by whispers of a place that had burned long ago. Ashmoor, they called it, a village swallowed by fire. Yet one light, they said, had never died, a lantern still burning in the ruins of an inn. When Elias glimpsed the faint outline of rooftops through the storm, his lantern flickered once, and the air grew colder, as if something unseen had turned its gaze upon him. Ashmoor lay silent, drowned beneath fog and ruin. Charred beams jutted like bones, and the smell of wet ash lingered, old yet fresh. Elias moved through the remains, guided by that glimmer he'd come so far to find. The inn loomed ahead, a crooked silhouette beside the marsh, its walls buckled with age. In its upper window burned a steady flame, the lantern. No wind touched it, no rain dimmed its glow. It burned as if the storm dared not approach. Elias stepped closer, the mud softening beneath his boots, warm, almost pulsing. The marsh seemed to breathe, and from the dark, a whisper slipped between the raindrops. It spoke his name. Elias reached the inn's door, warped and swollen with rain. The hinges moaned as he pressed, but before he could force it open, it creaked inward on its own, like it had been expecting him. The air inside was thick with dust and the faint sweetness of decay. His lantern light swept across overturned chairs and blackened walls, preserved as if the fire had burned yesterday. On the far wall hung a portrait, a man with hollow eyes holding a lantern identical to the one in the window. Elias stepped closer. Beneath the frame, carved deep into the wood, was a single word. The storm's roar dulled as Elias entered. His lantern's glow caught the painted man's eyes, still wet, still gleaming, watching. Dust floated like ash, swirling in lazy spirals. Beneath the portrait, a faint trail of wax led toward the staircase. Elias crouched to touch it. The floor pulsed faintly, warm as skin. A breath of wind sighed through the hall, though every window was sealed. Then came the creak of footsteps upstairs, slow, deliberate, pacing overhead. The air thickened with something unseen, ancient, and listening. Elias tightened his grip on his lantern. He was no longer sure which flame belonged to him. Elias climbed the stairs, following the trail of wax gleaming in the gloom. The boards groaned under each careful step, the smell of burnt oil thick in the air. Halfway up, he saw another glow, faint and gold, moving just ahead of him. It wasn't his lantern. At the top, a door stood ajar, light spilling through the crack. The same steady flame that had lured him here. He hesitated, heart hammering, then pushed the door open. The hinges cried out like something waking from a long sleep. Beyond lay the room where the lantern waited, burning with a light that didn't belong to this world. The room lay in ruin, splintered bed, overturned table, air heavy with centuries of silence. On the windowsill stood the lantern, its glass flawless, its flame impossibly bright. It burned with a red-gold glow, pulsing like a living heart. Elias drew closer, unable to look away. The air hummed softly, whispering words too faint to grasp. As he reached out, the light dimmed, then flared, blinding him. In that glare, he saw a reflection not his own, a pale face behind the glass, lips moving soundlessly. The lantern wasn't burning oil anymore. It was burning memory. Elias stumbled back, trembling. The whisper rose, dry as dust. "You followed the light," it said. "Now you must keep it." The air shimmered with heat, yet the room was cold. The doorway behind him was gone. Only darkness stretched there now. The walls pulsed faintly, lit by the heartbeat of the cursed flame. The face in the glass returned, older, hollow-eyed. "I tended the light," it murmured, "until it tended me." The lantern flared white, and the door behind Elias slammed shut with the sound of a coffin sealing. The room grew unbearably warm. The flame deepened, spilling gold across the walls. Elias's pulse matched its rhythm, faster, hungrier. Sweat burned down his spine as the whisper came again. Feed it. The walls blackened, curling from the light. The flame was eating, consuming something unseen. Then, a knock from inside the lantern, sharp and deliberate. The face pressed closer, eyes desperate. Don't let it die, it pleaded, or it will take your place. Elias stumbled back, but the glow followed, brushing his skin like breath made of fire. Elias ran to the window, but outside, time itself seemed frozen. No wind, no rain, only fog and silence. He struck the glass. It didn't even tremble. In its reflection, the man from the portrait smiled faintly back at him. The lantern's light flared, and two shadows danced on the wall, one his, the other not. The whisper circled him, wrapping like smoke. Keep it burning, or the dark will open. The face inside the lantern screamed soundlessly, and for an instant, Elias saw his own eyes staring back, trapped behind the glass. Elias fell to his knees, choking on the heat. "What do you want from me?" he gasped. The voice answered, soft and sorrowful. "Only what was taken. Every flame must have a keeper." The reflection reached through the light, a pale hand pressing from within. "I was the first," it whispered, "and now you will be the next." The glow reached for him, wrapping his body in warmth that turned quickly to agony. Elias realized it wasn't warmth, it was hunger. Shadows writhed across the floor, crawling toward him like living roots. The inn trembled. The lantern rose, floating before him, its glass swirling with faces, each one burning, each one screaming. Elias tried to run, but the light pulled him closer, relentless, magnetic. "Keep it alive," the chorus begged. His own lantern slipped from his hand and shattered, yet its flame crawled toward the larger one, joining it. Pain split his chest as cold fire pierced his heart. The last thing he saw was his reflection inside the lantern, his mouth frozen in a silent cry, his eyes hollow, his body burning without smoke. When dawn crept over the marsh, Ashmoor was silent once more. The storm was gone, but in the inn's window, a lantern still burned, steady, golden, eternal. Inside the glass, if one dared look close, a new face glowed faintly among the old. Its eyes wide, mouth open, whispering words that no one could hear. The flame pulsed gently, like a heartbeat not its own. Travelers who pass the moor speak of the light, and of the figure in the window, watching, waiting. They say the lantern will never die. For every light must have its keeper.